So this is quite the controversial subject, but it needs to be addressed, all right? Women have no place being pastors. I don't hate women. I think women are as important as men, but they each have their own jobs. They both have things that they should and shouldn't do. And this has become important contention as society has shifted away from traditional values. Society's gone from extremely conservative to more liberal. And they're like, oh, Christians, they're still so conservative, but no. They're moving too. They may not have moved as much, although there's pride flag abomination churches, and that's a result of this liberalization. There's even the conservative ones, the traditional ones, they've moved to the liberal side a bit. And this is an example of that. So, we're going to read the Bible today. First verse we're going to pull up is 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35, under the subheading, Order in Church Meetings. Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. And in some translations, the words are a bit different. I believe in, let's look at NIV, or CSB, that's the one I use in my personal Bible. Okay. The women should be silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but are to submit to themselves. As the law also says, excuse me, I read that poorly. If they want to learn something, let them ask their husbands at home, since it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church. So, that should be conclusive, right? I'm going to go over the rebuttals of this after this, by the way. That should be conclusive enough, but we still read this again in 1 Timothy 2, chapter 2, verses 11 to 14. A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. So I'm going to make a note about this. It is true that the word used, the Greek word, which is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but this Greek word, as you can see, it's used interchangeably for wife, as you can see here, and woman. So, you might say, oh, well, what if it's only talking about the wife? Well, if you read the rest of the New Testament, you understand that the church and relationships are a reflection of the church. It's the same authority structure in a way. If you read, you'll understand that. So, that alone, even if it says wife, that contributes evidence considering the fact we have a conclusive verse that is talking about church meetings. So this is supporting evidence. Now, let's talk about the mainline rebuttal that I've seen, because I've brought this up many times, and this is the main thing I see. There you go. The main thing I see said in response. Oh, that was just a time period. It's not like that anymore. That's just there used to be like a prejudice against women, and that's how it is now. It's not like that anymore. And the issue with this is it's logically invalid. It's a logically invalid argument because you're begging the question. So, why does it matter it was written a long time ago? You have a burden of proof to sustain by making that statement. You can't just leave it at that. You have to explain why that matters. And I don't think a good faith argument can be made for this. You can't sustain that burden of proof. And let's get aside that. Couldn't this logic structure be used to invalidate the entire Bible? Let's think about it. Now let's put it into an argumentative format. The Bible says women need to be silent in churches. It was written a long time ago. Therefore, it's invalid. Like, that doesn't even make any sense, but let's apply it to everything. The Bible says you shouldn't steal, but it was written a long time ago. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you steal. Like, these things don't make any sense. It's not a logical argument, it's just an emotional argument. I feel like I should be able to. I mean, wasn't it misogynistic if you don't? It's not misogynistic or sexist to say you can't. Okay? Unless, like, you're one of those hippies or like, what do you mean a woman can't? What do you mean men are stronger than women? What? That's impossible. Like, bro, if you think accepting reality and accepting gender roles is sexist, or if you're a Christian and you think the Bible is sexist, then I don't know what to tell you. It's not an argument with me, that's an argument with God. So, and also, you can use the same argument for pride churches. I mean, The people that have brought up this argument, like, oh, it's just a time period, they are vehemently against these pride churches, rightfully so. But they, under this logic format, they can't say anything bad about them, because what do the pride churches say? Oh, you know, that there was just a prejudice against gay people back then. Now it's okay. What's the difference in the argument? Both of them beg the question. Both of them are logically invalid. Both of them are fallacious. But because the person that's defending female pastoralship is the point they're making, because they're making that point, they can't say anything bad about the other point. They can't invalidate their argument, because their argument will be invalidated by their invalidation of the other argument. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. The burden of proof that the other side, the female pastorship, must sustain is impossible to sustain. You just can't sustain it. I don't see how you can sustain it. I've done a lot of research on this. There's no way you can sustain it. All of the arguments fall flat on their face. All the justifications would be emotional, speculation, begging the question, circular, etc. So there it is. Women have no place being pastors.